thank you, Paul Bowen, for that really enthusiastic intro.
You're welcome!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for Big Brother's Big Archive. My name's Karl, Mr. Paul Bowen that you've already met, and joining us via Skype, Mr. Joseph Tilley. And we are really looking forward to today's episode because after all the suffering that we had to go through during the Channel 5 era, we finally get to Channel 4's final series, and one that I think we're all really looking forward to talking about. This is Big Brother 11.
Because it's got aspects which I like, which is basically the fact that you've got this massive superpower of Big Brother fucking around with the entire cast. I mean, we're not just talking about, tiny things. I mean, full-on big things. Like,
I thought what you liked for was Kinger and the bottle.
No. Let's not go for that again.
Let's never speak of King in the Bottle again.
Yes, because, Craig's expression just sums that up pretty well.
Yes. Instead, what we're going to be talking about is Big Brother 11, the final Channel 4 series. And one that used to feel quite enthusiastic about, but for me, I don't know, I just felt the series was rather underwhelming in some ways.
Well, true, because this is actually the last of Big Brother on Channel 4.
I wonder if that's one of the reasons why I feel that way about it, because I was really expecting something absolutely brilliant. I felt really underwhelmed by Big Brother 11 somewhat. I don't know about you, I just felt that way. I think we used to feel a lot more enthusiastic about it than I do.
Dude, they've less focused on the gameplay aspect and more the socializing sort of aspect of it. And basically, it's the housemates versus the house itself, which is the most brilliant thing of it. You've got all sorts coming out of them.
Where do you stand on this series, Joe? Are you positive BB11 or are you quite negative towards it?
I'm positive BB11. I love it. I think it's one of the best Channel 5 series.
Or Channel 4?
Channel 4.
Sorry.
I don't get me wrong, I do think that some of the cast members in the series was fantastic, but I think the way that the series devolved somewhat, and the way that two characters in particular, I think, dominated the show so much, it left a sour taste in my mouth. Don't know about you, I'm not as positive as you are, but as we mentioned before, this is Channel 4. This was Channel 4's final Big Brother series. And during the production, did you get the impression of that? I really felt that Channel 4 really went all out for this series. They really made an effort to try and make it feel special.
Yes, because the theme of Channel 4's this series of Channel 4 is, since we're going out with a bang. We're making the entire house an absolute nightmare of a fun house.
Yeah, I think it was a good, one fair themed, final shebang.
Would you argue it's the best themed house ever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the theme, it's just, I did an entire picture, which is on DeviantArt, but obviously 101 by the way, of this, because of the intro of it, that little 5-second snippet of it.
Oh, the intro is fantastic, I have to give you that. A lot of the production elements I do love in Big Brother 11. That's one of the positive things I will say about it.
Yeah.
It's not just the house as well, it was the advertising, the funeral of Big Brother, and all the ex-housemates coming to do a bit for that.
Fantastic, I have to say that, definitely. Now, one of the things I want to talk about pre-show, we're going to be moving on to the main show itself. We've already talked about how much we love the production in this series. Now, there was one production aspect of it though, which I did find very interesting.
It wasn't being a dick, but yet it's being an absolute nightmare towards them.
No, not that. No, the idea that normally the Big Brother cast remains very secretive. We don't know that many things about it. We get the Daily Star rumours about sex-mad cougar, what's the prey. But that's really it. For Big Brother 11, they changed that somewhat, in that they released a short list of 60 potential housemates to the media beforehand, giving the names, the ages and the biographies, a brief biography explaining who they are. And then, from that 60, they chose 14 to be in the main cast. Now the question I want to put to you, Joy, is was this a good move? Was it a welcome change from the normal format, or would you have rather of them being chosen in the normal fashion?
No, I think it was a good. It was good. I think they should do it more. I like the kind of lottery kind of. If you get chosen, you win like the one they did with the Kit Kats where Susie got in.
Yes, I remember that.
I really enjoyed it. I think it was a good idea.
Do you think though it sort of spoiled one of the elements of launch night which is appealing to people? Because we always like this idea of strangers coming in and meeting each other for the first time. That was obviously going to go because people knew who each other were because of these profiles.
But
Yeah.
the fact is, did they release pictures of?
Yes.
Ah, in that case, then they've released a picture, a name, and a short little story about them.
I did realise that most of the people who were like in the papers talking about, oh yeah, we're in this final 60 or whatever, were most of the people who got picked to go in the house.
Yes, I noticed that. And some of them even got picked for later series because if you actually read the biographies, you'll find Faye and Mark who were in Big Brother 12.
I remember.
Oh, you will. Just look it up on. There's loads of websites that'll tell you all the 60 people. You'll find them on there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was also quite fun on launch night as well because they would do the pan across the cast, saying who's contestant number one going to be, and you do the pan, and you'd be finding yourself. You'd see like the Iranian dwarf, and you'd be thinking, I want him. You'd be seeing the Mr. T impersonator, you'd be thinking, I want him. And you'd see the big baby bloke, thinking, I don't really want him. So that was quite a fun element. I quite like that.
Why can't they do that again? Because that was fun. Because selecting a 60, then bringing the top those guys into the house.
What did you make of the 14 that made it? Were you happy with the cast? Were you happy with it? With the people who you disliked on launch night?
There's more like than dislike for me.
Who were you really taken to?
Continue on.
You put me hurt me. I liked Mario, the secret housemate.
Well, we'll be getting to him a little bit later on.
I liked Shabby. She was brilliant.
I quite like Shabby as well. In general, I agree with you. I think that the cast, that 14-person cast, the initial cast, was a fantastic choice. I felt that they were extreme characters, but without being too freaky. I think that was one of the problems that Big Brother 10 had, which was that they pushed the oddball characters a bit too much. There were two grievances which really did stand out for me on the launch cast, which was I felt that the casting of Dave was a bit too out there for my liking. I wasn't a big Dave fan, and I think that'll come through during the course of the series.
I was.
Do you mean the Jovial monk?
Yes, and also I felt the casting Steve. I respect Steve and everything that he did for the country, but he was always going to be restricted by what he did. So I wouldn't have casted him. I thought that was a bit too much of a stunt casting for my liking.
It's a little bit out there, matey boy, that you wouldn't enroll a disabled person into the house. Why not?
Hey,
it was the stuff.
I'm not against Steve because he was disabled. I'm against him because I felt that there was going to be a lot of restrictions over what he could provide.
Yeah.
Well, where did you stand on the cast, Paul?
Well, it's a very diverse cast. I mean, you've got a war hero. You've got a person that would probably go into Mastermind and probably get every question wrong, even in his expert field. And you've got Ben.
Oh, Ben Duncan is one of my favourite Big Brother housemates ever. The guy is absolutely hilarious.
I hated him. Couldn't stand him.
I will convince you by the end of this podcast, Joe. What we are going to be talking about, though, is someone who you mentioned, and the Mario the Mole task. After the initial 13 people were chosen for the cast, there was a random draw. We assume it's random, it might not have been. We know how Channel 4 works. When Mario got chosen to be a housemate by random draw, under the condition that he did so under the role of a Big Brother mole.
Oh, and this is where Big Brother got evil. Instead of trying to be secretly a mole, guess what Big Brother gets for him to wear in the entirety of the task? A fucking mole suit. And a sign saying the words, I am a mole.
Brilliant. I love that fun moment. Mario played it absolutely brilliantly. Now, what was your view on the mole task, Joe? Were you supportive of it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it?
I liked it. I think it was good. I do like a bit of house sabotage.
House sabotage? That house was fucking evil.
It was a fantastic task, though. You can't deny that.
I'm not denying none of it. All the friggin' tasks from this shows that you basically Big Brother has gone all friggin' out.
In some ways, I do agree with that, but in some ways, I was a bit pessimistic. I was a bit disappointed though, because for years the Big Brother community have wanted a mole twist. They wanted someone who was in there, pretended to be a housemate, who was just there for full-on sabotage. We had one with Mario, and it got abandoned after 3 days. Do you think that maybe it should have gone on a bit longer than what it did?
Pretty much. I think it would probably be, the fact that he's got a mole costume on.
I mean, the mole costume wouldn't be the part of my idea, but the idea of somebody...
They would probably... Big Brother would probably fake it first, saying, that you can take off the mole suit, but the challenge isn't over. But you have to say to them that Big Brother said that the challenge was over.
I like that idea. I really like that idea. And how do you think Mario performed in the role? Because Mario got a big boost from this. He was the early season favourite, largely because of his task.
Yeah, he did well, but I think that it was a hard task, really. I wouldn't have done it very well, so I think he did really well at it.
Do you think he sort of hung on to that reputation of being the mole a bit too much, though? It sort of like took a step backwards because he had this big task to boost him up a bit.
But look at the bright side, at least he didn't have Stockholm Syndrome, or some sort of syndrome that made him think like a mole. I think there's something wrong with Mario. Why? He's trying to dig up the patio. What are you? I'm the mole, bitch!
So, of course, Mario got this mole task and was told that if all the housemates chose that he was the mole, suspected that he was the mole, he would lose his status as a housemate. Fortunately for him, however, only one person, I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but only one person suspected that Mario was the mole. With most of the house thinking that
Wrong. It was two.
Two housemates.
Corin and Iffy.
I apologise. The benefits of Wikipedia.
But still,
Wikipedia.
My God. Out of all the housemates, only 2 people got on there. And my God.
I
think they was protecting Mario though.
Yeah.
I got the feeling so as well. I think they suspected something was up and chose someone else.
I wonder what was up. Oh, maybe, I don't know, the fact that he was dressed like a fucking mole. What are you? I'm a fairy. Oh, fair enough.
But the housemate they did choose, and it brings me to the first talking point of week 1, was Sunshine. Sunshine received a large number of votes during that task, and it really symbolised the Sunshine versus the House storyline of the first week. Now, where did you stand on this whole thing, Joe, on Sunshine's isolation from the rest of the group? Because she was somebody who really got isolated and got a lot of prejudice from the other members. Rather unfairly, I thought. Did you sympathise with Sunshine a bit during that time, or what?
Yeah, I do sympathise with Sunshine. It's just because, from what I saw, she was lovely.
I got that as well.
Aye, but...
Do you think she maybe brought a bit on it herself?
But mind you, it does remind me of the weather situation in Britain. The whole entire house is Britain, and the Sunshine is leaving Britain as we speak.
Yeah, Britain hates Sunshine. Across the parade.
Oh look, Sunshine!
But I totally agree. I think Sunshine maybe was a bit too whiny for her own good, and maybe did bring a lot of it on herself. But I just felt she was such a positive person. I felt that sometimes she didn't really deserve as much of the grief as what she actually did get.
Yeah.
If she was a bit of a whiner, then...
She was a bit of a whiner, but nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, a lot of people like to have a bit of a moan, and that was all that Sunshine did in my eyes.
Aye, but remember, there's moaning, and there's fucking throwing all the toys, including the pram, out of the pram.
Well, most of the pram throwing during that first week stemmed from Shabby, and that brings us on to our next point, which was Shabby during week 1, who really stole the show during that first week as the large, over-the-top, extreme character. Now, she would actually grow on to be somebody who I did warm a lot to, but during that first week, I didn't really take to Shabby. I thought she was a bit of a cliche, a bit one-dimensional. Where did you stand on Shabby and her tantrums early season?
I thought she was a bit out there. I did like her, not as much as I did later on, but I did I thought she was a bit out there, a bit like Kitten. I thought she was just going to jump the wall and run away.
Did it put you off, Shabby, knowing that she had a drama background?
Well, actually,
no,
that's
not really.
that actually brings up a sort of a good question, because what if the tantrums and all that was basically a sort of drama act? Seeing that she's got a drama background, maybe it was an act.
And I think that was a suspicion a lot of people had, was Shabby deliberately hamming it up so she got more airtime. But I felt she brought something to that first week. You need to have a character during that first week just to kickstart everything. It was the Kitten in Big Brother 5, it would have been Shabazz in Big Brother 7, and it was Shabby this year. That's the way I look at it. But of course, during that week, there was the first round of nominations where Sunshine received, I believe, 10 nominations that week. And Shabby also received enough to get nominated, as did Dave. Now, normally, that would be it. That would be our nominations locked down. But for the only time ever in Big Brother UK history, we introduced the Save and Replace competition, which was a sort of power of veto which they brought from Big Brother America.
Yes, because
where a housemate had the chance to save themselves from the chopping block, and in return put up another housemate of their choice. Now, what was your view on this twist? Did you enjoy it, Joe? Did you think that it was a good dynamic element to the show?
Which Rachel? Rachel 1 or Rachel 2?
Rachel 1, Rachel White, the Beyonce lookalike. Well, where did you stand on the Save and Replace twist, though?
I think it was a good idea, kind of. It was interesting, for the least.
I like the task. The only gripe I would have had with it was that I didn't like how there was always going to be a change in the nomination process regardless.
Yeah, maybe done it every alternating week or something.
Well, what I would have done is I would have had a fourth contestant, assuming 3 were up. I would have had a 4th contestant representing the house, who, if they won, kept nominations the same, regardless.
Yeah.
That's the way I would have done it. But I think the task was fantastic, and I don't know why Channel 5 have chosen not to take that on board, because I think it was an interesting dynamic to have in the show. So that first task, we saw Dave winning it. Now that was interesting in itself, because I got the impression Dave would have been the person who would have gone out that week had nominations stayed the same. But he won, and Rachel White, got nominated in their place. So once again, we were going to have a female first evictee, and we were going to be losing a character who was likable, either likable or bringing something to the show. Big loss.
Because she's Rachel White, the Beyonce lookalike.
Now Rachel, up until that point, didn't really have that much of a story. She was rather under the radar, a lot more positive than what people made out. But she got her first big story, her only real story, unfortunately, in what we're going to be talking about next, which is the John James versus Rachel argument, which symbolises the first of a number of times, of John James's attitude towards women.
Basically, he's a sexist, isn't he?
Oh, terrible sexist pig. And I mean, John James fans are going to be listening to this. I apologise in advance, but I'm not going to be holding back with John James. I really do not stand the guy. Now, where did you stand on that first argument, which I believe stemmed from a discussion about magazine shoots? After leaving the house, Rachel was very open about doing magazine shoots in the past, and this upset John James for some reason and allowed him an opportunity to bash Rachel. Where did you stand on that, Joe?
I think that, once they leave the house, they can do whatever they want. John James did what he wanted. He married Josie and then got divorced.
I don't think he ever got married.
Well, okay, he was with Josie, then he dumped him.
And
we could bash him for that.
He did the magazine shoots himself, if we remember.
Oh God, the humanity! The humanity!
Oh, massive! But the worst part about it though, Rachel's reaction to this argument. Rachel reacted very poorly, I felt. Not in that she bitched about John James, not about the fact she attacked John James. The fact that she started crying about it made her appear very weak, and I think it put a lot of people off her somewhat. Do you think Rachel should have done the right thing and maybe fought back a bit?
I think so, yeah. I think she should have, yeah.
What about you, Paul?
Well, it shows that she's actually heading after it. But mind you, I would probably have to agree with you, because from the sound of things, John James is a bit of a prick.
Oh, big time, and I'm gonna be going into that in a lot more detail. I'm gonna hold myself back for now.
I got him again, folks. I got him again.
But I will be holding a lot of grievances against John James. But we get to that week's eviction, and it's as we know, Shabby, Sunshine, and Rachel. Now a lot of people had Sunshine down to be the first evictee. Fortunately for us, however, because I quite like Sunshine, and I get the impression Joe does as well, Sunshine survives, and it's Rachel who went that week. Now, on the whole, what was your view on Rachel? Because she only had 1 week to prove herself. I think a lot of people looked at her negatively because she was a Beyonce lookalike who was interested in fame. But I thought she was a pleasant enough girl. She was nice enough.
I would probably say, yeah. She looks like Beyonce, and to tell you the truth, that's actually a tick in the brownie points. But it's the fact that if you isolate yourself away from a group, then the group will not like you for a bit until that group sort of reaches out to you.
So you got the impression Rachel deliberately isolated herself?
Yeah, I think so. But on the lighter note, she could, like everyone else who goes into Big Brother, thinking that it's going to be an absolute, hootenanny.
Yeah.
Your real self will probably come out. That might have given her a bit of anxiety towards socializing with the group.
How do you think Rachel would have done if she stayed further than week 1, Joe?
I think she would have really come out of her shell and, been a good part of the house. I think that if I had to choose myself who would go, and I think I did, I would have got rid of Shabby.
You would have got rid of Shabby week 1. Now that's interesting. That's interesting because I think Shabby really grows as a character later on. And one of the ways that she does grow on, just moving the story along a little bit, one of the ways she does grow is by one of the first things we're going to be talking about when it comes to week 2, which is the Shabby and Kiefer relationship. Now, where did you stand on this, Joe?
I can't even pronounce the name.
Kiefer.
Kiefer. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody could. Let's be honest. I love the way that the Trio of Temptation described Kiefer, but didn't he call her Camden though?
Yeah.
Yeah, get it. Speaking of which,
yes, we're going to have to be getting onto the Trio of Temptation later on. But for now, Shabby and Kiefer. Was it a bit too much of a rip-off of Anthony and Craig for me? I mean, I loved the relationship. I thought that the two of them working together was really compelling, and it added a bit more of a dimension to Shabby as a character. But I felt it was a bit too Anthony and Craig for me. And I think Anthony and Craig played the unreciprocated love story a bit better than Shabby and Kiefer did. But I thought it was engaging enough. Where did you stand?
I think it was sweet that, Shabby liked her, but at the same time it was a bit painful. Like, we knew that Kiefer had a boyfriend, and, Shabby was just constantly trying, to get her away from her boyfriend so she could be with him, and it was just a bit painful and difficult to watch at times.
What about you, Paul? Where did you stand on Shabby and Kiefer?
Showmans. It's probably a show. It's probably an alliance to give it a bit more strong sort of bond. If you do this, I'll do that for you. Blah 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 blah. Strategic sort of stuff.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. But as we mentioned before when we talked about Shabby and Kiefer, the Trio of Temptation made its eagerly anticipated return, first seen in Celebrity Big Brother 7.
May I explain about the Trio of Temptation?
Of course you can, Mr. Paul Allen.
Once upon a time in the Garden of Eden, where shit keeps on running free and people are in the buff, a magical tree that held a glorious apple and for some odd reason a snake grew out of the ground. Then suddenly, for some odd reason, someone chopped the tree down and turned it into a lovely little set of drawers.
Move over, David Starkey. Paul Barron's around.
Thank you.
But yes, the Trio of Temptation made its eagerly anticipated return. First time since Celebrity Big Brother 7. Now, what was your view on the trio? We all enjoyed it when it happened in Celebrity Big Brother 7. Did it work as well a second time around?
Yes, because It was awesome. It was basically the most nastiest being on the face of the earth. If this thing was in a furniture shop saying, "Oi, you, buy me," Buy me for someone.
I have to love some of the nicknames that the tree had for the housemates. I think Ben was Brideshead, Kiefer, as we already mentioned. I think Shabby was it Shaggy Catchy Google?
Yeah.
That is why I would want to buy that. That is why I would want to buy this if it started talking to me. Buy me. I'll make the best Christmas present in the world.
And I'm
sorted. Oi, cheapskate! Cheapskate! There's some pants in here. Whoa, stink.
And am I right in saying as well that it was the tree that first gave us the Crab Eyes nickname as well?
Oi, Crab Eyes.
So that's why we'll always love the Tree of Temptation, just for that reason, just for an attack on John James. But, so you all agree that the tree made a great impression second time around.
Yeah.
Now, another big story of week 2, we're just moving on a bit here. Another big story of week 2 was the emergence of another unreciprocated love relationship, that of Ben and Mario. Now
It's
we
Now
we talked about Shabby and Kiefer and how that proved engaging and developing for both of them. This didn't though. I don't think anybody really took to Ben and Mario as anything legitimate. It just came across as a bit sleazy to me. I don't know about you. Where do you stand on Ben and Mario?
Again, go Islands, it's go Island. But it sort of doesn't work that way because again, you're basically looking at a manipulative evil with just a pawn, really.
But what was it that made Shabby and Kiefer so engaging that Ben and Mario didn't have? What about you, Joseph?
Well, for a start, there were 2 chicks.
Well, what about you, Joseph?
I think it was a good pairing, yeah. I think it was a really, it was unusual, and I think it was quite good, yeah.
Do you think it harmed Mario in the long term, having this sort of like sleazy affection for Ben?
I don't know, I don't think, I didn't see it as sleazy, really. I just thought it was like, trying to make friends.
Probably, but mind you, though, if I was Big Brother at this point, and to tell you the truth, if it was, I would probably get 2 T-shirts saying, "I'm his bedfellow." I'm Ben's bedfellow. So you know,
I can understand that. But of course, we have to move on, and that week's nominations and Saving a Place took place, and it was Ben, Jovan, Shabby, and Dave who were nominated first and foremost. Shabby won Saving a Place and saved herself from Mario.
And that was a good task, by the way, the scooter slide.
The scooter slide task, even though Ben completely failed at it.
Yeah.
Well, it involved physical activity, so of course Ben was going to fail at it.
wait a minute, scooter slide task.
Yes.
Thank you, magnificent twisted madhouse that is Big Brother. Thank you.
But it meant that Shabby saved herself when she would maybe very likely have gone that week, and that meant that pretty much through default, we had Jovan go that week. Now, Jovan was sort of like the semi-bitch of the series, where everybody has to have like an early season bitch that sort of like dominates airtime for a little bit, becomes a little bit of a mini villain, and then goes very early on. And I think Jovan sort of filled that role a bit.
Example, Nikki.
But where did you stand on Jovan, Joe? Did you like him as a bitch character? Do you think he was maybe a bit underwhelming? What do you say?
One of them characters I didn't like. I just think he looked like a head-shaved butch lesbian man.
Now that's harsh. That is harsh.
That's like calling a butch lesbian George.
Do you think maybe one of the problems with Jovan was that he was a straight male playing a bitch character?
Yeah, it didn't suit him.
Do you think that maybe it would have worked better if it would have been a female doing this sort of role?
Probably, but I think it was funny at some point.
Fair enough. Okay. Where do you stand on Jovan, Paul? Do you have any opinion of him or not?
Playing a straight guy playing the bitch. That does not seem very, very smart. Because you're trying your best to be a guy who's supposed to be likable in a very twisted house, but yet no.
So you didn't take to him at all.
Nah.
And with that, we have to move on then. Now we've talked a couple of times about Ben Duncan, and especially my appreciation for him. I know Joe's not as keen. One of the times that Ben really did start, and one time it's quite symbolic of Ben, was Ben's Day of Hell, which came in week 3, which involved Ben having to do a boot camp style exercise in the task room. He was given the option of quitting whenever he wanted to. First chance he got, bye bye. and and of course it had to be Dave who had to do the task in his place, which ruffled a lot of feathers and I think started the Ben and John James mini feud, which continued throughout the series.
Who would want to fight with a man of drunken blood?
Oh, Carl.
Yes.
Can we talk about? I think we've totally skipped a week there.
Have we?
Yeah.
Well, I apologise.
But they missed out the penalty shootout with the German Big Brother.
Oh yes, good point. You had. Thank you. That completely blanked my mind actually. Yes, there was this part, but of course this was 2010. The World Cup was just beginning to start. So the English Big Brother housemates competed against the German Big Brother housemates within a penalty shootout. And after, unbelievably, ladies and gentlemen, England beat Germany in a penalty shootout!
Suck it, Germany! 2 World Wars, 1 World Cup! 2 World Wars, 1 World Cup!
And a Big Brother penalty shootout.
Suck it!
And one of my favourite tasks as well, which was the talking to the puppets of each other.
Oh yes, fantastic. I did like that one. The one memory I have a couple of memories from that task. The first one was that everyone else's puppet had a normal skin colour, and yet Corin's was bright orange, which was something that stood out for me. And the other one was a really surreal moment during the eviction show when we come up, where Davina was replaced by her own puppet when she was reading the phone lines out, which is quite a surreal, fun moment. And those are two things that really stand out for me in this one.
And yet, this is the thing that I love about this series. It's supposed to be surreal. It's supposed to be this sort of over the top, sort of thing, which I really, really love. I really love. To tell you the truth, this is the first ever time that you'll probably hear me say this on this show. But I really love this series.
Thank you very much, Paul. We finally got here.
Don't push it though.
Okay. One thing though that week 3 did bring us, and we have to bring this up unfortunately, it was the beginnings of the JJJ alliance during week 3. I know the sound of enthusiasm engulfs the air. JJJ.
What the hell's the JJJ?
John James and Josie. A terrible power couple that eventually stifled a lot of the fun during this series.
And it sounds like a bit of a crap superhero movie.
It does actually, doesn't it?
The JJJ Force.
In saying that though, for as bad as John James and Josie actually get later on in the series, arguably it was quite endearing early on. Then we had this quite normal country bumpkin Randy Meyer managing to win over the affections of this Australian pretty boy. It was quite endearing early on, but for what it became, I don't think anybody can really look at John James and Josie in a positive manner.
Well, to tell you the story, my lover.
No. I got my face ripped off by a chimpanzee.
I got my face ripped off by a chimpanzee, so...
I was going to say that.
Sorry, Joe. I'm
sorry, Joe, but, I can't help but to speak in this voice. Because, we're going with a happy-go-lucky, chunky bunkin. We're going with this sort of thing, so let's have it then. I think I've just cracked my cranks as well.
And with that, we have to move on. You go sort yourself out while I talk to Joe about the nominations for that week.
Bloody hell.
Similarly to week 1, it was Shabby, Sunshine and Dave nominated again. And once again, Dave managed to save himself. It's quite awful, isn't it? Like Big Brother America always has a sort of veto queen, like a sort of positive female that ends up winning all the competitions. We had Dave.
The original Joville monk, the man who found the power of the alcohol.
Well, Kiefer actually goes on a bit of immunity run, but the fact that Dave was the one who really benefited, especially in the early weeks from saving the players, it was a bit unfair on us, wasn't it? But of course, Dave wins it, and he ends up getting replaced by Kiefer. Now, a lot of people had it down during those weeks. Kiefer had really had a negative downturn in an edit, and everybody suspected Kiefer was going to be gone that week. Then Vagina-gate happens. which is an argument between Quell Supreme, John James, and a woman, in this case Sunshine, in which Sunshine reacted negatively over John James dragging her across the floor and exposing her lady garden. This leads to a negative backlash against Sunshine, which eventually leads to eviction. What was your view on Vagina-gate, and why do you think Sunshine had such a negative reaction, especially from Facebook, following this incident? I put that to you, Joe.
I think it's just ridiculous. He didn't even say anything. It's just she totally blew it out of the water. She did deserve to go that week because she acted like such a spoiled brat, and I just think that though John James is a sexist pig, she kind of deserved it.
She's actually in the right here. I mean, you don't get. What would you do if you got dragged across the floor?
Well, it's hard to say. I'm never going to have this happen to me, am I?
Exactly. But
I don't know, Karl.
Yeah.
You have a lady garden, Karl?
No.
I don't have a lady
I don't mean
garden.
like that. I mean just the fact that John James, being the sexist prick that he is, just came along, dragged Sunshine across the carpet, right? Getting her really agitated. You know, it is justified why she acted like she does.
Well, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. It's great, fantastic that you two have such differing opinions on this. Personally, I have to side with Paul. I think Sunshine maybe did overreact, but I think she was justified in feeling upset about something like this.
If I was actually in that house, I would have given John Paul a friggin' left hook.
I think a lot of us would have liked to, let's be honest.
Fist of 1,000 punches.
And of course, unfortunately, this negative backlash, because John James, of course, had the tweens on his side, had the Facebook nutters like phoning in thousands of times to get rid of anybody who dared criticise King John James, and Sunshine ends up going that week. Now, what was your view on Sunshine and the housemate? 3 weeks. She was quite a divisive figure, but in my eyes, she was one who was quite sweet, quite positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was quite positive. But
she was harmless. That's the word I'd use for Sunshine. She was
and that makes it even worse, because you know it's like picking on the kid with autism in the middle of the schoolyard. You don't do it, but yeah, for some odd reason, some prick had to be nice and hard and mighty and punch the kid in the face.
Do you think that the fact that it would be the second time in 3 weeks that somebody who John James had argued with had gone, do you think that inflated his ego a bit?
Yeah, I think it did, yeah. I must say his ego was absolutely massive.
Oh, it was ridiculous by the time the series ended.
Yeah.
He was just not a nice housemate at all. Now, but of course, Sunshine leaving meant that Shabby and Kiefer stayed in that week. And of course it meant that Shabby and Kiefer played a big part in the big argument of week 4, which was Cringe-gate.
Oh, before we go there, can I just say, worst stand-up ever by Ben.
Ah yes, Ben Duncan's stand-up routine. And again, another example of just how brilliant Ben Duncan is, and he's so cringeworthy at times, but that's what makes him funny. It's just absolutely brilliant, and I know you're not too keen on him, but I think he's fantastic.
I liked him, but it was just like too posh and too like cringeworthy posh.
That just made it funny to me. He was such a fish out of water. We'll get to him when we discuss Ben later on when he gets evicted, but I think he's fantastic. What I do want to talk about though is Cringe-gate, which was the big argument of week 4, which stemmed from Shabby and Kiefer criticising Iffy's dancing when Iffy if he was part of a reward task which she won. And some of the housemates were in the bedroom because they weren't allowed to take part. Some of them were in the living room and joined the party. Shabby and Kiefer cringed at Iffy's laughing, and that caused Iffy to really kick off. Where did you stand on Cringe-gate on the whole, Joe?
I think it's just ridiculous, to be honest. It just shows how, like, living in a house with 10 people for so many days can make you go a bit crazy.
Do you think Cringe-gate sort of symbolised the start of a change in Shabby and Kiefer's fortune? I think a lot of people really began to turn towards her during this week, and I'd like to think Cringe-gate maybe symbolised the start of that somewhat. I'm guessing I'm in the minority there.
I'm
Yeah.
Let's move on then. Now,
everything that you put, most of the things that you say about Latifah and the relationship that she will make is the fact that it might be strategy or basically genuinely being a nice guy. Or girl.
fair enough.
She's a girl, isn't he?
Kiefer.
Yeah.
Yes, Kiefer's a girl.
Oh crap.
Moving on though, we get another great task. There were a lot of great tasks during this series, and this was another one. What was your view on the robot task?
Oh my god. I'm probably gonna get this. Probably gonna start with this sort of thing because I'm guessing the house has been invaded by robots, and it's up to the housemates to stop the robots from coming into
Just
the
one
house.
Robot.
Well, just one robot, unfortunately, which is Titan.
Titan.
For once, Titan is an absolute animatronic wonder, right? It walks on its own. When it's programmed, it can entertain on its own. If it had its way, it would probably be in wars with 2 AK-47s just going away.
And it proved to be a fantastic part of the show. I think the robot task was fantastic, but of course he had to do.
Piece is when Titan's first introduced the house and they're looking at it and it moves and Corin jumps a foot in the air.
It's
Oh my God!
Karl was fantastic. I have to say, Karl is a great underappreciated housemate in my eyes.
I would really buckle if Titan just went, hello, I have come to invade your house. I want your Jaffa cakes.
And of course as well, the competitions against Titan, which was part of the shopping task, also gave us one of the great Steve moments when they had to do a cooking task with Steve representing the humans and Titan representing the robots. And Steve obviously making all these wisecracking jokes about Titan as he's struggling to try and hold the whisk and everything.
Yes.
So for that reason alone, Titan needs to be appreciated because it gave us a great Steve moment.
I also say that unfortunately on day 27 was the day that Shabby left.
And it's a sad day actually. I've really appreciated Shabby, and I think that she was a fantastic housemate.
I think it was a shame she went. Yeah.
It was. And more than anything, it was the way that she went, because I feel there was a real air of misogyny that was really beginning to stem from that house. And if you remember as well, she had that big argument with Nathan just before she left, which I think was the catalyst for her going. And Nathan, by that point, I think Nathan had got himself into a really solid position as somebody who would pretty much cement these players in the later stages and got quite cocky about it. I don't know about you, but that's the impression I got.
Yeah. Just think, if she hadn't gone, then Nathan would have gone anywhere.
Nathan would have, yes, but I think in some ways though, Shabby leaving at that point because of Nathan made Nathan's downfall, which you're going to be coming on to, even more karmic. Because Kiefer and John James were nominated that week. Kiefer all but expected to go because a physical task, John James is almost certainly going to win. Kiefer wins the task, a first save and replace win, puts up Nathan, and Nathan goes with 89%.
Which is great.
I think that's a great karmic moment actually, because I don't know about you, we're going to be assessing Nathan now. I didn't really like him. I felt he had a lot of potential to maybe be a good character, but I felt that was really underwhelmed. I think he came across a bit of a self-righteous idiot.
Oh, you were going to say self-righteous prick right there, weren't you?
And I stopped myself.
Oh, well, I said it anyway, so.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Where do you stand on Nathan?
Nathan.
He's a bit of a forgotten character, isn't he? But he's somebody who I just never really took to.
And this is why I'm hard for recalling him, because he was so...
I must say that one of the best puppets was Nathan's, with the big monobrow and the...
Oh, now I get it.
I like that one.
Yeah, I'm going to recall him as the self-righteous caveman, because quite frankly, he did look... Come on, you've got to admit, he looked like one.
Yes, I have to give you that. I
would really buckle if he went, Nathan, I am Nathan.
Well, most of it, that was the way he talked, let's be honest, Nathan.
Chop.
Actually, come to think of it, Nathan was the prototype Jay, who in turn was the prototype Connor.
Yeah.
So maybe something went wrong in the cloning machine or something like that. They put ape DNA in it.
So it's a good thing. So it's a good thing he was on Channel 4 because Channel 5 would absolutely adore Nathan. Moving on though, but Nathan's departure meant the arrival of 3 new housemates arriving in the very surreal manner. If anyone remembers this, the spaceship landing in the backyard.
Yeah.
And inside it brought us Andrew, Keely, and Rachel number 2. Now, what did you think of these 3 on the whole? Because I don't know about you, I thought they were quite underwhelming. I felt Keely had a lot of potential, and I think she sort of delivered it on the whole. But Andrew and Rachel too just seemed a bit underwhelming as contestants. Where do you stand, Joe?
I think I preferred Andrew to the girls actually. I think you might think it was a bit fun, but I think it was quite, it was quite interesting.
Well, that's fair enough. That's an interesting point. Andrew was likeable, but just didn't bring enough for me. What about you, Paul?
It is basically Big Brother saying, "Oh, we're putting some more people in here, but we need to do it really, really spectacular." So, fuck it, spaceship.
Very surreal moment. It made me a bit too over elaborate, I think.
Yeah, but they're trying to squeeze every penny out of the budget.
They are.
But
Yeah.
a spectacular way of squeezing every penny out of the budget, mind you.
I'll give you that. But on the whole, though, I didn't really think that these two brought enough. Andrew was nice and likeable. Rachel was a mild annoyance. Keely did bring a lot, though, I felt. I knew she was going to be short term, but one thing I want to bring up is Keely and Steve's relationship. Because Steve had been a favourite, pretty much by default, for a large proportion of the show. But his relationship around Keely, where he came across as quite sleazy, really put a dampener on, and I think it harmed Steve for a lot of people in the show. Where did you stand on that, the Steve and Keely relationship?
I think he was just like trying to be a dad, more like a dad than a lechy old man. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's what I think.
What about you, Paul?
Because
you're quite supportive of Steve, aren't you?
True. He cannot divulge a lot of things about the army because, quite frankly, servicemen don't want to give away secrets, like the magicians. It's just, it really represents the injured soldier that we have in Britain.
Do you think Steve came across as sleazy in the relationship?
Not particularly, considering the fact that, Steve hasn't seen a woman in his service time.
He's married.
And never mind.
Moving on very quickly. Now, 3 people once again nominated that week. It was Colin, Iffy, and Kiefer. And once again, Kiefer was all but gone that week. And once again, she wins Save and Replace. So Kiefer becomes the challenge queen of the series. And I think a really rootable character. I think a lot of people got behind Kiefer because of this immunity run. And of course, Kiefer winning ends up putting Mario up. Mario was a pawn for a lot of people if you come to think of it. He was always sort of like a default go-to person to put up.
Well, what do you expect? He was the mole.
He was, yes.
But unfortunately, it wasn't the silent mole. It was the, oh look, I'm a mole. Look at my mole suit and sign. No.
The slightly irritating, attention-seeking mole, as it later turned out.
Fair enough.
That week was another one of my favourite tasks.
Which one was that?
The Uber Cougar.
The Uber Cougar, yes, I remember that. There was a rumour that it was supposed to be Pamela Anderson, wasn't it? I think they tried to get Pamela Anderson to do the role. Ha! Couldn't get her. Quite ironically enough, because she ended up on the Channel 5 series. But of course, the Uber Cougar held all the male housemates hostage, and it was the female housemates, done up as superheroes, who had to do a series of tasks to try and get them out.
This is going to be entertaining.
Now, the one thing I do remember about that, a couple of things I remember about that actually. Kiefer in a catsuit, gorgeous. And also, I believe Ben was the first person who was saved. And I just remember the sight of Ben leaving the Uber Cougar's lair and just doing this mincing run to the girls to gather them up in his arms. You saved me! I love you all!
Get off me, you mincer!
I love Ben. Ben Duncan is absolute fantastic comedy character. And I think that's just another example of that. But yes.
Why do I just see someone that looks like Bill Nighy just running towards running towards these people?
Well done for bringing that up, Joe, because I completely blanked that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. One thing I am going to bring up though is the eviction that week. Now, Corin, Iffy, and Mario, it was good. It was apparently very close between Corin and Iffy during that week, and I think a lot of people touch and go over who it was going to be. What do you think swayed it that Iffy went that week?
Maybe it was a bit iffy that he was nominated in the first place.
Maybe. What about you, Joe? What do you think it was that made people say, I want to get rid of Iffy?
I think it was just like, for me, she didn't do much.
I sort of got the impression that Iffy always for me came across as a bit of a third wheel in the whole Kiefer and Shabby thing. It was like Kiefer and Shabby were the two dynamic members of that group, and Iffy was just sort of like this, like tag along, didn't really do much.
Yeah, she was like a third wheel.
Definitely, I think that's the best way to describe it. If he was a third wheel, bit underwhelming, not as likable as I would have liked. What do you think if he could have done to maybe being a better housemate? Because she certainly had a lot of elements that should have been great. I guess not. Let us move on then, and let us move on to week 6, the Saturday of week 6. And something which I like to call Ben Day.
I'm guessing.
Which involved all the housemates dressing up and behaving like Ben Duncan for the whole day.
Now this is basically Big Brother with its twisted side, because, it reminds me that, it still reminds me that this is this is Big Brother at its twistedness.
It's fantastic. But the thing I love about it was that another housemate would find the irony of everybody dressing like him. They would click on, hang on a minute, they're doing this to take the mick out of me. Ben loved it. Ben loved the fact that everybody had to be like him.
It reminds me of an episode of Ed's World where Matt was just building snowman replicas of himself. I love your hair. I can tolerate your existence.
So during the whole episode, they had to embrace Ben's favourite things, his favourite music, have to listen to Ben talking. And one of the best moments for me was when they had brought a piano into the house. Ben played the piano, and he played Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey because he loves Shirley Bassey.
Oh God.
Oh my God! This is becoming like that episode all over again. This is becoming so much of it.
So what's great about it was that he chose Corin to sing Goldfinger. So Corin, obviously singing it for the fun that she is, it's hamming it up, singing the big ballad part, obviously really badly, and really hamming it up, having a lot of fun with it. And then he cuts to Ben, and Ben's taking it so seriously. He's he hates the fact that everybody else is giggling about it. His face, can you remember on that Friends episode where Ross is playing on the keyboard?
Yes.
Ben's faces are exactly like that. It's an absolute fantastic moment. It just again symbolises Ben Duncan epically for me.
Yeah. Another good one, which I hate the person who was in charge of it, and so on. But I hit the glee task. It was quite interesting.
I knew you were going to bring that one up.
Wait, whoa. There's a glee task.
Yes, it involved them doing a theatrical glee-style performance of Don't Stop Believing.
Oh, God, no! Oh, no. They do it so well.
Now, my opinions of Glee aside, the task was fun. Again, it provided a great Steve moment because Steve, I believe, was the lead singer of the task. Just enjoyable fun. I liked as well the X Factor style cutting of Andrew Stone saying, "Well, the decision's made," and they did the big X Factor style production, which I thought was good fun as well. A fun task for me. Paul's face, if you get to see it, is in absolute despair. I don't think he can get over this task.
Why? Channel 4! Why? He's down and he's just twitching.
Speaking of people going down, Kiefer was left on day 42.
Thank you for bringing that up, Joe. And again, a very sad moment for me.
And then
two.
fractured her ankle and then had to leave.
Yes, two big losses I felt for me because we had two alpha females in the show, and I think that the show really harmed itself by having them two leaving. We're focusing on Kiefer first. Kiefer had just become so rootable by that point. I think he was really embracing this underdog status. Like the save and replace wins are warmed to people, the relationship with Shabby wanted people, being an outsider. And I think it really hurt the show for me to lose Kiefer. And once again, it was arguably as a result of John James and his influence over the house that caused Kiefer to quit. Because remember, there was another argument involving John James in regards to Josie, which caused Kiefer to quit. The amount of influence that John James had over that show was just terrible for me. Kiefer's thing though, Kiefer actually, I believe, is the only housemate ever to be medically evacuated from the show. She's the only housemate ever had to pull out because of injury. And again, another big loss because I think that Keely was emerging as an alpha female type and maybe had a lot of influence. I don't think she would have been long term, but I did like her, and I think she maybe would have brought something.
It was the one that was jumping on the bed and fell off and hurt herself.
Was that series 6? I think it was Vanessa Nimmo. Not Vanessa Nimmo, Leighton McIntosh. Vanessa Leighton McIntosh. I believe she was one who did that. The one thing I remember about that, because Keely injured herself in a save and replace task, and the whole task involved her, Corin, and Rachel too trying to climb up a half pipe, and the person who managed to get to the half pipe first won. And the one thing I remember from that was that when Keely twisted her ankle, hurt herself, everybody else ran over, obviously realising that Keely was hurt. The one thing that stands out from my mind was Corin just completely blanked it and still tried to get up to the half pipe. like stuff that, I'm still doing this.
That is awesome.
I love Corin. Great contestant.
Right.
But yes, two big losses, and it really hurt the show from that point. And what arguably hurt the show more, Channel 4, this is a real difference from Channel 5 to Channel 4 for me. Channel 4 saw that things were beginning to die down, things were beginning to get slow, rather than carrying on with it, thought, let's get some new housemates, let's chuck them in and hope for the best. Now, they had 6 choices to choose from, and in my eyes they chose the 3 worst. Which was the introduction of Cougar Joe, Laura and JJ. 3 very poor housemates. Arguably the worst intruders ever.
How did it... Hang on. How did they get into the house in the first place?
Well, they had a choice between 6 housemates, 3 males, 3 females, and he said to the housemates, any 3 of these 6 can be able to choose them. Which one would you choose?
Well, not the 3 that you're saying, because apparently they sound shit.
They were terrible. And basically what they chose for themselves was best friends. And I think when you had, in that selection, I mean, Cougar Joe aside, I think Cougar Joe was worthy of making it for me. JJ and Laura, just terrible.
Are we talking mature woman and Joe, or just literally someone who's basically thinks he's a cougar, you know? Oh.
No, we're talking an older woman.
Oh, fair enough.
Yep. But I mean, when you had Joel, the world's sexiest fat man, and some bloke by the name of Sam Pepper as one of the potential contestants, pretty bad choices. Where do you stand, Joe?
I would have chose Sam. You know, I didn't really like him, but I would have chose Sam over probably JJ and what's the other one? Laura, yeah.
Well, thankfully for us though, Laura's stay in the house only lasted 3 days.
Yeah.
Because she just decided, I want to go, I'm not enjoying it, and just decided to leave. And arguably, Laura is not only the shortest lived housemate ever, arguably the most pointless as well.
Are we talking pointless as in, you know, just there for the crack? Or?
She just didn't do anything. She was just in the house, she was a housemaid, didn't do anything, left.
So
3 days!
Oh my god. So basically she's got the more potential of a plank.
Yes. And one question I do want to bring up, one sort of theory I have in my mind is, did production let Laura leave easily because they wanted Sam Pepper in? And that because of Laura leaving, they now had an excuse to put him in.
Yeah.
Moving on though, we're gonna have to move on. We are running a little bit short of time, but moving on now. we're going to move on to to probably my favourite task of the series. Ignore the obvious.
And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce this ignore the obvious. Well, this is basically this is one of Big Brother's most biggest highlights, considering the fact that each time Big Brother will send in an annoyer. As in other words, someone sent in to annoy the living piss out of him. So what happens here is Big Brother sends in every single bit of annoying feedback that could possibly be fed into a house.
And made it absolutely entertainment. It was fantastic. Now,
it was so close.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I loved. I loved the clown in the diary room popping balloons behind the housemates' backs.
And Ben, oh my god, that's hilarious.
Which one was that? Could you repeat that, Joe?
The one with Ben.
Oh yes,
The clown
fantastic.
behind Ben scaring the bejesus out of me.
I loved Ben. Brilliant. Also, as well, we had Marcus Bentley making an appearance. First time
the voice has a face, and it was a brilliant sort of
fantastic. Because it was great as well. Because Marcus would come into the house, he'd have the microphone in his hand, and he'd just be looking at his watch just from time and again. So it'd be like 12:50. Josie's passing around Jaffa cakes. 12:51. Mario's walking to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
12:55.
That was funny.
12:55. Josie is eating Jaffa cakes. Oh, thank you very much.
I like that. Josie actually passed the Jaffa cake to Marcus to eat. Which I thought was great.
Yeah.
What did you just say before then, Joe?
The estate agent showing the people around the house.
Yes, because the house we believed was going to be sold, so they sent an estate agent out and a group of tourists to actually say, oh, now we've got a heavy, spacious environment here, you can develop that into maybe something else for that matter.
This is brilliant! Brilliant! They just, right, it's just, Big Brother at its twisted, evil best, and I love it!
What I didn't love, though, was the departure of Ben Duncan that week.
Oh.
Because unfortunately, it was Ben, Andrew, John James, and Dave that week, and unfortunately we had to say goodbye to Ben Duncan because, of course, an enemy.
Votes almost.
What's that?
With over half the vote.
Unfortunately, I knew Ben was going to go that week, unfortunately, because I know what the voting public's like, and I knew that Ben was going to be in trouble the moment that the public had a real chance. In saying that, I think the fact that he made it to week 7 was a positive side of it, and you can't deny that what he brought to the show, because he was entertaining, he had a lot of storylines, he was great fun, and I'll probably go as far to say that if you ever do Ultimate Big Brother 2, Ben is an absolute lock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Paul?
Ben was, in fact, the best. You have your personal peeves of a best villain character in the house.
I wouldn't say he was a villain, but I thought he was actually quite rootable. If there was a best way to describe Ben, he was Tim Nice but dim.
Yeah, he was Tim Nice but dim, but with strategy, or basically an inflated ego, like one of those rubber duck things that you have around your waist.
I personally, I don't agree with you. Maybe I can see why some people don't really take the Ben. I just thought he was.
He's Matt from Edgeworld. If anyone knows who that is, please like that, because I've just said, because it's a brilliant sort of thing.
So Ben unfortunately left. And
bye Quiff.
Bye Quiffhead, as the train would say. And in his replacement, we got somebody who managed arguably to take up the mantle that Ben had left and help to carry the series from that point on, because realising that they now had an opportunity to bring a housemate into the house to inject some enthusiasm, they brought in Sam Pepper.
Oh God.
And pretty much as a full-on last resort, we need to do something.
And what do we get? We get fucking every single nerd that you see in a TV show and put him in a hipster sort of vibe.
It worked though. And one thing I will say is that Sam did deliver on what was expected of him.
Being it's like the Olympic torch passing down from quiff head to dick head, as I like to call it.
I like that one. It's a real shame that Ben and Sam Pepper never talk to each other in the house.
But here's the thing, right? He said on the internet, he says he's a graffiti artist. Now, I will personally mention you in the next podcast if you get me a picture of one of his art, of a piece of his art.
How much will you pay?
I'll give a mention.
Okay. You're not going to get anybody, you realise that, don't you?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Whoever listens to this, you do that, and I will mention you in the next cast.
Moving on. And we're going to be moving on to something we sort of touched on just then, which was Sam Pepper versus the house. Now, knowing that he was this antagonistic figure that was there to wind up and disturb the status quo of the house, Sam just went full on, attacking pretty much everybody and everyone. What was your view on Sam in those early stages? Did you just see him as just an annoyance you want to get rid of, or did you understand the role that he was playing in the show at that point, Joe?
I thought it was like an annoying little brother kind of character. I did understand that I did understand his character, but I do think he was like the annoying little brother.
I sort of see a lot of annoying little brother in Sam, and I think that was maybe one of the reasons why I didn't really hate him as much as I could, because there seemed to be this sort of innocence around him that I don't think another contestant would have pulled off.
He looks like a small nerdy child. That's why he looks like an innocent sort of type.
Small nerdy child.
You really hate Sam Pepper, don't you?
Hey, he looks like an absolute fool.
Because it's very shallow, Paul. You don't like him because of his looks.
I know, and he's acting like a complete tool. Oh
now,
God, if I start rhyming like this, it's going to bloody go all day.
You sound like Dr. Seuss.
Yes, the original Snoop Dogg.
Moving on though, now, good thing for Sam, he wasn't eligible to be nominated that week during the new housemate.
Hooray!
The people that were allowed to be nominated, however, were John James, Mario, and Rachel too. Now, Mario won that week's save and replace task and ended up replacing himself with Dave.
And if I'm guessing correctly, Dave went.
No, actually, it was Rachel number 2 who went that week.
Aww.
She was boring anyway.
Yeah, I didn't really like Rachel was just too irritating for me. She wasn't that interesting. She was a bit irritating and didn't really bring that much else really to the show.
Can I say, from that week, week 8, highlight of the week, John James dressed as Miss Havisham.
Thank you for bringing that up, Joe. They had a Dickensian themed task, which involved Colin dressing up as the Artful Dodger. Scrooge, actually, sorry, yeah. Who was the Artful Dodger?
I can't remember, but they did Consider Yourself dance.
That's probably where I got it from. But yes, John James had to play Miss Havisham from Great Expectations. We all read it in school. And one thing I remember from that was John James just flat out saying, "No, I don't want to do it. I'm not dressing up."
I want to be with Rachel for 24 hours. That's it.
Or so he says.
And behold, the sexism keeps on going with this man.
Did anybody say it's a bit double standards though? Because John James was really hard on Ben, especially for not trying hard enough in the task, and now he's being the hypocrite, and he's the one who's saying, "No, I don't want to do it."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, because
the question was, why did he have so many supporters then when he was showing himself up to be a sexist hypocrite?
Because most of England is consistent of sexist hypocrites.
What about you, Joe? Why do you think John James was able to sustain such a fan base for having such negative traits?
Before I start,
because
UK, love you. Okay, so
because everyone liked Josie, and because he was with Josie, everyone seemed to like him as well.
You think Josie was that popular? I actually think the opposite. I think that for me personally, a lot of the reason why I disliked Josie was because of John James. Crab eyes. He hated that name, didn't he? Moving on though, we get on to week 9. We're flying through this actually. Week 9, and we get face-to-face nomination, which involve gunging the housemate who everybody wants.
Yes.
Ooh.
I love that.
Again, the house being twisted as ever.
It reminds me of that show, if you remember. It was presented by Ainsley Harriott, where he got to gun your parents.
Get your own back, I remember that.
Bugger off! That one Ainsley Harriott.
Dave Benson Phillips.
That's the one.
He did look like Ainsley Harriott though.
Oh, bloody racist!
Oh,
Ooh. Karl, tut 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 tut.
I hang my head in shame, Paul.
Hang it. There we go. Okay.
Yes. I actually felt that face-to-face nominations normally works really well. Did anybody get the impression though that it scared people off voting for John James because nobody dared to go against the leader of the house at that point? I think John James would have received a lot more nominations had it been normal process.
Well, on the other hand, you know, at the house, what the house was basically, you know, a bit, you know, at the current moment doesn't have the balls to actually go against John James because he has that so much of an influence,
and because they also know that everybody who John James has argued with had gone previous to that. Now the 4 people who were nominated that week were Dave, JJ, Cougar Joe and Mario. And Mario won the save and replace task and put himself up with Sam Pepper. And I think a lot of people were suspecting Sam's going to go that week. He's been the irritation so far.
Yeah.
like a rash on an ass.
Actually, the opposite began to happen during that week, which was that Sam Pepper, who was expected to be just this late season irritation just to boost things up, actually instead began to become a serious contender to win the show. What do you think it was that made people turn to Sam Pepper and really appreciate him more?
I think it was just like he calmed down a bit and it was like less of an. I know he still like wound up Josie a bit, but it was less of an irritation.
Because it was a real surprise. I remember, particularly Digital Spy. Now, Digital Spy usually goes for your older, more mature. It's sort of like the protest vote of the internet, especially during the Channel 4 era. And even Digital Spy were rooting behind Sam Pepper and wanting him to win. It was really interesting to see. It was quite surprising. I think it took a lot of the producers back as well. What about you, Paul? What do you think made Sam Pepper appeal to the mainstream public?
Well, apart from the fact that, you know, he's trying... back in those days, I think, mid-2010...
Yeah?
a lot of people start to see more of the scene style and more of the stuff that Sam Pepper's doing. So they're probably going for that.
That's an interesting thing to say. Now, the other interesting thing
and they just don't like John James, so they want to keep him in even longer.
Good point, actually. Do you think there was a lot of a protest vote? Do you think Sam's momentum stemmed from being an anti-John James protest vote?
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, the other big interesting thing that happened in week 9 was an argument between those two people that we mentioned, Sam Pepper and John James. And it was an argument which caused Sam Pepper to break down in tears. He was really upset at John James slandering him in this way. And it sort of led to a shift in momentum, as it were. I don't know about you, but for me, bringing Sam Pepper to tears is what lost John James' show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what happened afterwards?
Well, we'll get to that later, but the one thing I want to talk, I'm going to bring that up with you, Joe. Do you think John James lost it with that argument?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
It's short enough words. What about you, Paul?
Right.
This is basically the fall of a tyrant, because showing that Sam Pepper is in tears will give more of an empathy towards everyone who's been bullied and lives most of their time in arguments. So he will get the sympathy vote to get John James out.
Do you think it symbolizes a bit of double standards in the voting patterns of the audience? So that John James attacks a woman and the woman goes. John James attacks Sam Pepper, and Sam Pepper stays.
It does seem like that, but unfortunately, but think about this, right? Getting dragged across the floor, right? Possibly getting your lady bits sort of shown, would basically mean that she's basically having the most miserable time of her life, and she wants out, and the public just got her out. So technically, they were the out card.
I can say that, and there will be another housemate who will be joining Sunshine out the house, and that was Cougar Joe.
Oh my God.
Now, what was your view on Cougar Joe? Because for me, it's a strange one with her, because she didn't really do that much. She wasn't really that prominent, didn't really have a lot of storylines. Yet I really wanted to her. I don't know why, there was just something about Cougar Joe that really got to me. I quite liked her as a contestant. What about you, Joe?
I think she was interesting.
I found that as well. The best way to describe Cougar Joe for me is that I could imagine if she was on Big Brother 10 or 15 years before, when she was a bit younger, I think she could be the absolute star.
Yeah.
I see a lot of that. I could imagine her being like a Charlie type figure for me if she was younger. I just thought she was a warm personality. I just found her quite likable. What we are going to move on to though is arguably the most controversial and arguably the worst twist ever in Big Brother history. Now, the house is told that they have an opportunity now to give immunity to any contestant that they want which still remains in the house. The house chooses Josie for this task, and in the aftermath decide to hold a quadruple eviction.
Oh Lord.
No vote to save. 4 people with the most votes from the rest of the house are going to go that week. Is this the worst twist ever?
This seems a bit shallow, considering the fact that, well, at the present moment, I'm absolutely loving the house. The twistiness of the house was an absolutely brilliant sort of thing. And why Channel 5, haven't adopted that yet, I will never ever know.
The thing with the quadruple eviction was, I just don't understand what the logic was. For me, it was the general sense was that you want to keep your big characters in to the later stages of the show.
I think what there was I think it dragged on a bit too much, and they thought, we want to finish it quick, we better just do a quadruple.
There's a better way to do it though. What they should have done is just open the lines there and then, and just said the bottom 4 during that time go, and that way you keep your big characters around and you get your big finale. Because let's be honest, Coven versus Josie versus John James versus Sam Pepper would have been an absolutely fantastic finale, and we were robbed of that because of this eviction.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense for me to try and get rid of your biggest characters before the series. And it leads me to the theory: did production, knowing that Josie was safe, set up this eviction so she had no threat going into the finale?
Maybe. You can't really say it for them, can you? You can't really put words in their mouths. But maybe, is all I can say.
What about you, Paul?
I'm just, this is basically the shining of who to actually,
Do you think they were scared of Sam Pepper a bit? Because Sam had a lot of momentum at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but if that was the finale, and it was Coven, John James, Josie and Pepper, I think Pepper would have won.
I could see that, but that was not actually the only twist to the quadruple eviction. There was also another twist of a familiar face returning.
Good point, Paul. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, during that final week, the house decided against this. I have to admit I'm against this because I don't really agree with this myself. But they decided to bring back a couple of housemates who have been evicted for a group of mini tasks, which involved Ben coming back. Hooray, close to Ben. But the more interesting one was John James receiving a massage from an unknown masseuse, which was actually Rachel White, who was evicted in the first week, giving the massage herself. And this meant John James having the chance to slag off and criticised Rachel, when of course Rachel was the one doing the massage.
Yes, but I would love to see a mysterious table of weird instruments coming out, so she can probably give it a little bit of frontier justice.
And I think she could if she got the chance.
We just talked about the day, the big day on day 70.
The house flood.
Yeah.
Yes. Honestly, one of the most surreal things I'd seen.
Apparently, according to one of the head production people, it's because housemates have been throwing socks on the roof.
I read that, yes. But it was.
How the hell does that even work out in the set of flood?
What happened was that they threw the socks up onto the roof, and the socks got stuck in the vein gully. Because the vein gully's clogged up, got nowhere to go, ended up coming straight through the roof.
Oh, so technically it wasn't production, it was basically a genuine flood.
It was a genuine flood. The rain was terrible during that week. I remember it myself. I was on holiday that week. And
why do I just see the tree of temptation going, that's right, swim away, quickly, we're almost there.
Next time build a boat of temptation.
Ha ha ha! You've got me to save you now, Quiffhead.
But it was a real surreal moment to actually watching the house flood, and the house had to be evacuated itself.
It was weird to see like outside the compound, the big compound.
It was. And I'm trying to think of the times when I've actually seen outside the compound itself. I remember seeing it when there was the bomb scare in Big Brother 4.
Yeah.
And I also remember seeing the outside of it when Leo Say tried to break out.
Really?
Yeah.
Leo Say.
Funny side, I'll have to tell you about that one when we get to it. But yes, it was the last enjoyable moment of this series before it all went to pot with the quadruple eviction.
And the fall of John James. Hallelujah.
Thank God, because he was terrible. What I'm going to start with though, if we're going to do this in order that everybody left the house, Steve was the first to go. Now, what was our view on Steve? He didn't really do that much. I respect...
Dad.
He was a bit like a dad. I respect him as a person. I respect everything he did for our country. He wasn't good television though.
Him and Gwyn were like mum and dad of the house, Dickie and Dolly.
I saw him as the dad of the house. And he seemed to appreciate it a lot. I think Steve was one of the people who really enjoyed the experience more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Nice enough bloke. I don't think he was the best television, but he couldn't really do that much himself. Unfortunately, let's be honest. Second person out that night was unfortunately Colin.
Boo.
Now, I don't know. Now I know. I get the impression from you weren't too keen on Colin, but I thought she was great. I love her.
No, I like Colin.
Oh, sorry, you were booing Colin going. Sorry. I just thought she had such a peppy enthusiasm. She was so likable for it as well.
Love her.
Oh my God, I'm loving her. And she surpassed all expectations because I had this fear that Colin was just going to be this awful, ditzy, like, lovable idiots. You know how there always seemed to be this trend recently that these lovable fools all get this support because they're so innocent. And I thought Colin was going to be like that, but she surpassed her expectations so much.
Are we talking lovable idiots as in just before, or lovable idiot as in Barkin sort of thing?
Brian Bello.
There we go.
And I thought she was going to be like that, but she surpassed so many expectations, and she was great value for money for it in my eyes. And I like Colin. And where do you stand on Colin, Joe?
I think she was great. I think she was a great housemate. I really liked her. Yeah.
I liked her as well. There was a lot of surrealness about Colin as well, which sort of added to it. I just loved the sort of quirks that she did. Like the way her mouth was like aghast at pretty much everything that happened in the house.
Yeah. I would love to see that turn into a meme.
I'm surprised you haven't actually. Colin is surprised.
We release some not enough games. Corin's surprised.
Moving on though, and we come to the third person who was evicted, and that was Sam Pepper. And I know you're not too keen on him, Paul, but Sam Pepper did his job of being the caffeine injection the house needed.
A caffeine monster infused bloody caffeine injection, more like.
He did his job though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which was fantastic, and Sam Pepper needs to be appreciated for that. I think he's a bit overrated for what he was. I think a lot of people like to hail him as this all-star, which I don't really buy into.
But I would like to see his graffiti, so
Yes.
He was a good housemate, but I wouldn't say an all-star.
Same for me. I don't rate him as an all-star. And then we come to the man who everybody wants to talk about. For negative reasons, I have to point out, John James.
Tool.
I couldn't stand him. In fact, I would put it this way: there's only ever been for me been two housemates who I have ever considered of single-handedly ruining a series. One was Karl in Big Brother 8, and John James was the other one.
Yep. And I can understand why. He's sexist. He's just
Sexist, hypocritical bully.
exactly.
Why?
Thank you.
He had a problem with women, and he completely killed any sort of enjoyment of the show because of his problems with women.
And that we give you a solitary all around middle finger to John James.
Terrible, because I appreciate what he brought to the show. I have to admit that, but it was just no enjoyment about him. Every time I saw him, he was just moaning or whinging, and the way that he and Josie held such a stranglehold on the series. He's the main reason Big Brother 11 turned out so disappointing for me.
Mm.
And I mean, it was a good start to the series, and that was it. It just ruined it. And that meant, of course, the four biggest contenders to Josie were gone. And for that finale, we all knew Josie was going to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did you make of finale night, Joe? Was there any sort of enjoyment factor there?
Yes, there was. There was a brass band playing the Big Brother theme at the end, which was absolutely spot on for the theme of it.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that we could find that was any enjoyable of Big Brother 11's finale.
Well, apart from the fact that the right person won the show.
Do you get that impression? I mean, of those five that were left there, I'll be honest, I'd rather have gone for any of them over Josie. I really did not like Josie.
Even Dave
Even Dave the Monk, I would have preferred Dave the Monk to win over Josie. That's how bad I saw her.
Even including Molly Mario.
Well, we'll go through all these together. Now, we're going to do the first three on the road because they, let's be honest, blend into one another. I didn't really do much. Andrew, JJ and Mario. What did you think of those three on the whole, Joe?
I think they were good. They all have their own individual things I like, dislike. I very much like
For shallow reasons. And Andrew, I felt was a nice enough kid, didn't really do much. I didn't like how production tried to push him as this lovable geek figure. I thought they tried to make him a bit into the new Eugene. JJ for me was nothing more than an extension of John James. He was John James too. But essentially.
You can actually have the two first letters right there.
So. And for me, it wasn't more than that. Mario started off great with the mole task. It didn't really do much else, and then just for me came across as a bit of a try-hard who tried to artificially garner interest in himself when he realised he wasn't getting it.
Yeah.
So we come to this final two, probably one of the most comedically mismatched final twos ever. Josie, who was the most obvious winner ever, and Dave Vaughan, who pretty much everybody's expected to be one of the first ones out, is the runner-up of the series.
And to tell you the truth,
I just think how Dave laughed about everything. It was also funny.
Again,
I found him false.
I liked him. He was basically a living, breathing pub. He was the Joe Monk.
I didn't buy into him though. I felt that yes, Dave painted off this thing of I'm getting drunk on the glory, and it just I didn't buy it. I felt it came across as false. I felt that Dave himself was very sleazy. I didn't like the way that he sort of tried to throw Ben under the bus behind his back.
Yes.
There wasn't a lot of Dave that I liked at all. And the fact that I wanted him to win over Josie says as much as it needs to.
So
how much I
basically, the
dislike
enemy
Josie.
of my enemy is my friend.
Pretty much, yeah.
Even though he's a bit of a scumbag.
Because Josie, for me, was just... I felt she was a bit of a big head. I think she was a big head who used people for her own means. And I find it annoying that of all the housemates post Big Brother 7, there's only ever been one that's really had a media career, and that's Josie Gibson.
And I can just see that, her big head just got even bigger.
It's not. She's turned into a terrible person for me. I mean, good on her for losing all the weight, but I don't like the fact that she, of all people, has got a media career out of it. What about you, Joe? What's your view on Josie?
Sam got internet fame, so
Yeah.
like science, except science was good.
Well, what about you, Joe? Josie.
I think that she was lovable, kind of, and I think she was like, you know, she had to go, and that's what it's all about, really.
So you're a bit more supportive about it than what I am.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And also how to end a series, how to end a show.
A pretty spectacular move onto the series, which we shall not talk about.
Yes, we'll get onto that a little later on when we talk about Ultimate Big Brother at the end of the series.
Okay.
But on the whole, Big Brother 11, where do you stand on it? For me, it had a fantastic start, a lot of great launch night housemates, and then just lost so much momentum by the end of it. And
I think it had its good points and its bad points, and it was a pretty good ending for the Channel 4 series.
And well, I would like to say that it's like a firework. Sure, it's spectacular and all that,
but it fizzled out by the end.
but it sort of fizzled out.
And I think that's it, because really, if I had to judge Big Brother 11 from, I'd say, week 1 to week 6 onwards, I'd put it'd be a top tier series. But because it dragged so much, and because John James held such a stranglehold over the series, it's a bottom tier series for me.
Exactly.
It's not as bad as Big Brother 4, Big Brother 8, nowhere near like that, but it's a bottom tier series because of that back end.
Yeah, because John James is a prick.
Yes.
Honest to God, he's a prick.
Anyway.
And with that, we'll have to end on. That's a good way to end it. John James is a prick.
Thank you. Both akimbo middle fingers for him.
Yes. And with that, we have to end the show. And I have to say, I have really enjoyed talking about Big Brother 11. Even if I wasn't the biggest fan of it, I've really enjoyed talking about it. And I'm sure you two have as well.
Because, this, right? I'm not going to say this again, so you better record this. This is my personal favourite of the series. Because, it's got steampunk elements in it. It's got the twisted sort of feel to it. It basically played with the housemates, which was absolutely brilliant. I mean, remember Ben rising and shining?
Yes.
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. Anywho, let's leave it at that.
Yes, we'll have to end it there. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this episode. My name's been Karl Bainbridge. That's been Joseph Tilley.
Chimpanzee.
And that's been Mr. Paul Byrne.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be seeing you once again for our next episode where we'll be covering Celebrity Big Brother 7. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.